From daily news to the demanding nature of the new normal, the pressure on us to keep going and carrying on is more than ever before. Good evening, viewers. We all are facing probably the same storm, but I think sailing in different boats. So, continuing with the wellness webinar series initiated by Ms. Aditi Misra, Director Principal DPS Gurgaon, we are hosting webinar 6.0 with a very, very interesting panel today. Each one with a different narrative, each one with their own ways of navigating. And I think no one way is right or wrong. So let me introduce you all to this very, very interesting panel. We have Tapasmi Ray Chaudhary, a class 11 humanities student. She expresses herself through art, poetry, and movie making. Her essay was featured in Inside the Millennial Minds, a project by UNESCO. Recently, she has won the jury award in the Polaroid filmmaking competition, and she wants to study consumer psychology. Good evening, Tapasmi. Then we have,
Good evening, ma'am.
Then we have Parth, again a class 11 student, and he's pursuing PCM with CS. He's a debater and has won many awards in MUNs. He was amongst the 20 toppers in FIT in Deutsch 2, a German proficiency exam. He holds a distinction in Rock School Grade 3 exam in playing the drums. A very good drummer indeed. And he's a member of NODE, the computer club of the school. And he's planning to do machine learning and programming when he grows up. Hello, Parth.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello. Then we have Navya. Navya Garg is a commerce student studying in class 12. She is the president of the TEDx Youth Club and has been a part of the school core team for youth leadership and entrepreneurship programs. She has a keen interest in theatre. And Navya plans to pursue management studies in future. Good evening, Navya.
Good evening, ma'am.
Then we have Abhimanyu Garg, a class 12 commerce student. He is a house captain and expresses himself through acting and enjoys taking part in debates and discussions. He has won numerous awards in MUNs and has chaired various important committees for the same. And he wishes to pursue economics. Good evening, Abhimanyu.
Good evening, ma'am.
Now we have a set of parents, very, very supportive parents of the school. Miss Archana Khera, an economics honors graduate from SRCC. She's worked with Bank of America, and after that, she joined the United Nations office. Later on, she founded her own recruitment firm. She's an avid reader and loves to sketch. She has been associated with the school since 2003. Above all, a very supportive parent, always ready to help. Good evening, Archana.
Good evening, ma'am.
We have Ms. Jaspreet Chopra with us. She has a dual degree in systems design and business management. She founded her overseas travel management company 2 decades away. Passion came calling and she decided to venture into student counseling for overseas education. Presently, she's helping students find their calling to build a successful career, a strong pillar of support in all our endeavors. Thank you for being here, Ms. Chopra. Last but not the least, the initiator of these voices, the one who gave platform to the youth voices and all stakeholders, Ms. Aditi Misra, the Director Principal of DPS Gurgaon, a rare combination of charisma, and she has a collaborative approach in everything she undertakes. She's the founder principal of the school since its inception in 2002. She's been exemplary academician and an administrator for over 34 years, a mentor to children and parents equally. Children and parents always run to her, and she says, my doors are always open to share any of their concerns. So probably that is why, ma'am, you started this platform for conversations. These series of wellness webinar, let's talk.
Sapna ma'am,
Ha, ma'am.
you forgot the gentleman.
I'm coming to that, ma'am. I'm coming to
bring the parents first.
No, I'm coming to that. Let's talk is her idea of creating a common platform for the stakeholders of the school community to come together to have a conversation, share, and evolve. As a panelist, Mr. Ajay Wasan, again, a very supportive parent with his child who is a very active member of the school council, is an MBA from Erasmus University, Netherlands, and has done advanced management program from IIM Ahmedabad. Presently, he is an associate director, infrastructure services in IBM India. An avid Rotarian, he's actively involved in the affairs and service projects of Rotary District. His hobbies include reading, traveling, photography, and astronomy. And I think he says gadgets also is one of my hobbies. Welcome, Mr. Wasan.
Hello, everyone.
Now we have Mr. Biswajit Ghosh, and he says, you better call me BG. He has over 30 years of multi-domain corporate experience and has worked for Jensen and Nicholson, Usha Martin, Market, and Cognizant. Since last 3 years, he's running his own consulting company, which deals with real estate and infrastructure project management services. He has been an athlete. He enjoys music, traveling, and driving. Welcome, Mr. Ghosh.
Thank you.
So this is the panel that we have today. And I'm sure we will be interacting with each other with a lot of interesting conversations. And as before the webinar, we all were saying, and ma'am pointed out that our conversations should be honest and open, because only when we have an honest and open conversation, something good will come out of it. So my first, briefly, I'll request all the panelists, starting from Tapasmi, Abhimanyu, Navya, and Parth, and then over to the parents. What is your first take or your first thoughts for these past 4 months? Tapasmi.
Well, initially it was that of devastation, and it had less to do with the deadly virus outside and more to do with the fact that I didn't get to celebrate with my friends after giving 10th boards. But other than that, it's been full of ups and downs. Definitely, I'm really grateful for how much time I'm spending with my family. And we tend to have this idea that having fun needs you to go out. And I've realized that I can find that same contentment with myself, enjoying my own company. So the last few months have been really positive and beneficial for me.
Great. Thank you, Tapasmi. Over to you, Abhimanyu.
Yes, ma'am. So in totality, I would say that these 4 months have been a learning experience. Constantly adapting towards the activities along the new normal was definitely a learning curve. Because to be very honest, as soon as the lockdown was announced, all I could think about was the end. When is this going to end? How is this going to end? So somewhere in the middle, I think I realized to shift my perspective to, oh, I've got all this time now. What can I do? How do I utilize this best? Along with that, I think it has allowed me to be more grateful, be more thankful for all that I have. Because suddenly when the things that you enjoy the most are taken away from you, that's when you really start to respect and appreciate that. So definitely it's not been the 4 months that I had initially pictured back in January or February, but it has been a great learning experience, and it has its shortcomings definitely, but it has its positives also. And at the end of the day, I would rather focus on those positives.
Great. We should focus on our positives. Wonderful. Over to you, Parth.
I first heard about the coronavirus before my board exams. Two of my classmates were discussing with me, and at that time I thought this is just a virus which originated in China. There's no way it would reach India anytime soon. But soon enough, it reached Kerala, and then after that, it was just mayhem. And what I have realized that we have to be fluid in our thinking. We just can't plan out something. We can't plan out our entire year and expect it to go exactly the way we want. And we need to ensure that we take the good out of everything that we are given.
Yeah, we need to take good out of everything that comes towards us. Perfect. What about you, Navya?
Right. I think I'll just start with a quote. When life gives you lemon, make lemonade. I think I just divide this into 3 phases and take you quickly through it. Initially, I thought this was a break from my busy routine. My bed and sofa was so inviting to relax. I could have food all day long, and I love doing that. But by the second phase, I think I realized that it wasn't as temporary as I expected it would be. Some confusion came about myself, about what's going to happen tomorrow, along with fear. I felt slightly socially disconnected. But I think by the third phase, I had started adapting, talking to others. So school resumed with classes and with co-curriculars. I started exercising now. I think it's safe to say that now this is the new normal, and it's definitely been very different from whatever we experienced in the past months. If I had to summarize these 4 months, it would be a lot of learnings which I wouldn't have had any other way, and gaining qualities like gratitude and most importantly self-compassion, which was not there before.
Great. So what Navya I think says that we are all of us are revisiting the values. Great. Now I'll request Mr. Ghosh, your take on these past 4 months.
So, by mid-Feb or early March, I was sitting with some Italian, clients of ours in Bangalore. And by the time, the coronavirus or the COVID-19 had spread to many European countries also. So we were talking about, Europe being able to, or the advanced countries being able to take precautions and measures being put into place. And I felt that in India, it will just be impossible to do anything of that sort because of our population, our poverty level, everything. Okay. I said, in India, we cannot have a lockdown. It's just not be possible to do it. But if you see, within a span of couple of weeks, we had a draconian absolute lockdown coming into place, which meant that everybody, irrespective of their social strata, got locked down. So that was one of the, unreal jerk that you suddenly realize that this is something in a different scale altogether. That the governments across the world, everybody across the world is taking this very, very seriously, and this is something which we are going to face. And then when the lockdown was going towards its second phase, you suddenly realize that human resilience is also very strong, and by the time progress to second, third phase, you suddenly saw that the human resilience, the acceptance was coming in very fast of the new norms. People, irrespective of their strata, were not resisting it so much, and they were taking all precautions. Okay, so there would be some slip-ups, just very minor percentage, but the adaptability and resilience which came into play was amazing to see. All of us, suddenly realized that a lot of things which we take for granted that we need are actually not needed anymore. We can still run our life. We can still do our stuff without those stuff, whether it's new clothes, whether it's new restaurants, whether it's pub that you need to go and meet, whether your meetings have to go to office for having and all, or the corporate lunches, nothing. I mean, we can do our life without that as much.
So what you're trying to say, BG, that we were back to basics, resilient and adapting to the new normal. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Archana, what are your thoughts about these past 4 months?
And these past 4 months have been a learning for all of us. And to me, I think one of the most beautiful things that I discovered was how strong and well brought up the children were, because they stood rock hard with all of us. I mean, and they were very compassionate. They realized, they realized that their grandmother is 75 years old, and they were very, very insistent that at that point they wouldn't even let her go down for a walk. They realized the father is diabetic, and he should not be going out. And they, so as a family, we stood there for each other. And in the earlier days, it was not that bad because we were all together. We've never been together. And then we realized that this is, we don't see a kind of an end to this. This may go on for some time. And at that point of time, I think we all took to it. Nobody fussed, nobody created a problem. And, they were there to help out with household chores. Everybody was helping with the cooking, with the watering of the plants. And we bonded very well. We have
Yeah,
not.
so the family bonds grew stronger in these past 4 months.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
ma'am. They're
What do
very
you
much.
have to say, Jaspreet? Your first thoughts?
I pretty much would draw from what people have been saying. Yes, it was definitely a learning period for us, and where initially one was a mixed bag of emotions. On the one hand, I was enjoying the family time with everyone being at home, and I was loving the cooking and everything, doing it for them after a long time, especially since my elder son had returned from university. But in a matter of 1 month, I think a monotony and the whole thing being shrouded in uncertainty was starting to take over, and your emotions were kind of raging higher towards a negative side. So at that time, I think being together with the family and by exercising gratefulness and thankfulness, I think one was able to return to that positive state of mind, and always remember that we had food to eat, whatever we wanted we could eat. We had air conditioners in our house, we had a roof at our head, and looking at all those reports about those migrant workers, one was so much thankful. And I think that helped bring the positivity back and keep the family together, and as you said, ma'am, make the bonds even stronger.
And we actually started counting our blessings.
True.
Your thoughts, Mr. Vasan?
More or less, what the other panelists have said, this period has been and continues to be one of the most surreal experiences of my life. Nothing in my 50 years of life experience has actually prepared me or any one of us for something like this. And it's been, there have been phases. So we actually I personally started off with a sense of disbelief, a sense of detachment that this was not going to be in India, this was China, and the rest of the world won't be us. From there, it went on to a phase of anxious frenzy, trying to control, trying to predict what would happen, keeping the family safe, keeping loved ones safe, keeping work going. And from there, it's actually then evolved into a phase of now into acceptance. And I think key to that acceptance is two words used by BG, which is resilience and adaptation, right? So those are key to the fact that we've now begun to accept into actually a new normal, into a new normal way of life. And I'll just share a very funny story just to illustrate this. A couple of days ago, I was watching a movie, and the couple was sitting in a restaurant enjoying a cup of coffee. And at the back of my mind, I'm thinking, should they not be exercising social distancing? That is the kind of new normal that this is becoming.
Yes.
So those are my first thoughts on.
Thank you. Coming to you, ma'am, how have these 4 months been for you? I know, but I would like the viewers to know the kind of, no, I'm not going to say, you please say,
Okay.
these 4 months for you.
Okay. So I'll really be quick because I think everybody's thoughts resonated with me. But in a way, I was a little in a different situation when we started off for the first 4 months because I live alone. And I was scared. I have no shame in saying I was a little scared that being alone, how would I deal with this? And then almost immediately I had an answer for me that I can't control Corona. I can't control the situation that there are no flights out to be with my family. So I decided that I'm going to be happy. I just decided that whatever may happen, I'm going to look at the bright side. I'm going to be happy. And there were some really tough days. Let me admit it. There were some days where it was very easy to fall in and just be miserable and cry. But I chose well on the negative and just be positive, because I think I had a lot of work to do. I'm very grateful for the work I had, and worrying is a job for me. So in the worry for everybody, in the worry for the drivers of the school, in the worry for the security staff of the school, for the teachers of not just one school but 3 schools, I think that guided me very well. So along with what Abhimanyu said about gratitude, along with what Archana said about, which BG said about resilience, I think all of that came together. But for me, the most important was to be happy and to spread happiness and positivity in whatever way I could. Because I thought that was the only thing in my hand. It's a difficult, unusual time for all of us. Nobody has faced this. We've not been trained how to face it. So let's just be happy and face it. That was the crux of what I did in the 4 months.
Thank you, ma'am. So that is why right at the onset, I had said it's a very, very interesting panel. Interesting panel because we have students, we have parents, and we have ma'am who decided that she wants to be an educator parent on the panel. And this panel seems to be exuding positivity, whether it's corona or no corona. But my next, I can say question, while I was talking to many students, that one string, one thread, that one word that kept on popping up in my face was self-doubt. So my question is to all the 4 young panelists on today, that was there any kind of self-doubt? Because there was fear of the unknown, fear of uncertainty. Was there any self-doubt anytime these past 4 months? I start with Abhimanyu.
Yes, definitely, ma'am. I think at least in the beginning, it was quite overwhelming, all those feelings, nervousness, because it was definitely something that we had never even imagined before. So facing that, continuously adapting, changing a routine, it was definitely, taking a toll on everyone. And at the same time, after a while, when you get used to that, it was still then that, am I doing good enough? Am I doing all that I could have done normally? Or how am I going to uniformly translate this into after the lockdown ends? So all those feelings came into mind definitely, and there have been a lot of ups and downs during the way. But as Aditi ma'am rightly said, that we couldn't control the corona or the pandemic happening outside. So I decided to take control of things that I could. So I took up 2 new hobbies, studying about the stock market and coding. So, and focusing on what I could focus on, spending more time with my friends on playing online games and stuff like that, in order to divert my mindset from just thinking about the coronavirus and all my life revolving around it to something that I could do right now. So I think that shift of perspective helped me with that self-doubt phase.
Great, Abhimanyu. So I think you focused on minding your mind during these.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. Because all kinds of thoughts definitely come to you when you're reading up on the news, when all that you're talking about is related to the pandemic.
Yes.
So all you can do is focus on the stuff that is really under your control, that you can enhance and you can do better in.
Great. What do you have to say, Navya? Were there any moments when you had a self-doubt and you thought that things are not going the right way?
Right. So I personally would admit that even before the lockdown, I've had issues of performance pressure with myself. And even in these 4 months, whenever there was any feeling of stress or anxiety, it was mostly arising from self-doubt only, because I would question myself about whether I'm performing good enough, whether I'm utilizing my time efficiently. And my social circle has shrunk into 4 people. There were so many thoughts together. Many people started working on their fitness so well, while I felt I'm just becoming more careless. In addition to that, I've become aware of so many people who are not getting the facilities like I am. So there was a doubt whether I'm doing justice to the privilege that I have. But I think eventually, rising above this self-criticism and sort of dissatisfaction, I learned the true meaning of self-care in a lot of ways. And our teachers at school keep reminding us how they're proud of us, and that really boosts our confidence in a lot of ways. The best of all of this has been that my friends and family do not treat me any differently. They do not treat me any special or care extra. It's all normal. And that is how you normalize situations. It just eliminates the possibility of stress or feeling of difficult times. And just to end, rightly as Abhimanyu said, anxiety, it doesn't come from thinking about the future. It comes from wanting to control it. So we all need to understand that we can only focus on things that are in our control. And one of that is our happiness. So.
Yes, thank you. So we choose to be happy. As ma'am said, she chose to be happy in spite of the fact that she was all alone. Parth, were there any days when you felt that things are not going the right way? There was self-doubt.
Yes, ma'am, there actually were. When our online classes started, I noticed that during these lessons, I wasn't actually focusing. So when our teachers were asking simple questions, I wasn't able to answer. So then I decided that I'll keep my phone aside, because what I was doing was during the online classes, I would just scroll through my phone sometimes and just get distracted, and then I couldn't follow the trail of the class. So I decided that I'll keep my phone aside and I'll focus on the class. And now I feel that I understand most of what is going on, and obviously you need to study at home to understand better. And also I think along with all of that, my friends and my family helped me a lot. They kept me in track, and I have realized how important they are. And actually, I've actually started caring for them even more.
Great. What about you, Tapasmi? Did you ever have these thoughts of self-doubt?
Absolutely. I feel like the minute a student steps into the senior school, there are already a lot of thoughts that plague their mind about getting good grades, participating in extracurriculars, and also making the most of our last few years in school. But what's funny is when I try to talk to my friends about it, the main concern lies about what other people will think of them and whether we'll be able to live up to the expectations that our loved ones have from us. And I think that these thoughts get amplified, especially under the current situation, because in addition to all of these concerns, we also have to worry about whether we are able to adjust to the new normal and find the motivation that we require to study. So I would say that the most important coping mechanism for this is to learn to take time out for yourself, to learn that it's important to prioritize your mental health and your personal well-being over what you are obligated to owe to others.
Yeah, great. That's such a positive thought, Tapasmi. Ma'am, after the students, I'll come to you with the same string, self-doubt, because children often run to you physically when we were in school, but yes, they keep writing to you emails whenever they have a doubt, they have a concern. At times, they share certain things with you which they would not share with their parents also. So, have you experienced this in the past 4 months with students?
Yes, definitely. Am I mute? No,
Yes,
definitely, Sapna ma'am, I have. Children have been writing to me, some anonymously. So I wrote back to I don't know if it's a him or a her. I said, I can't give you any advice unless I know who you are. But whoever it was still dealing with the trust of sharing what he or she was. So we opened a WhatsApp thread where I still don't know who he or she is, but we are having a conversation. And clearly things are better because the messages have now stopped, those frantic messages.
Oh.
But while you're talking to children about self-doubt and me dealing with their self-doubts and sort of reassuring them or putting them through to some other teacher who would reassure them, I must admit my own sense of self-doubt. There's nothing wrong with doubting yourself. I think it's a very normal emotion, and I'm a human. So I also had self-doubts on 2 counts. One was when it all started. I am aware that our generation is what we call digital dinosaurs, while our children are digital natives. So how are we going to bridge this divide? How will we talk the language that they will understand, especially if it's going to be online? So that quick decision of removing my doubt and saying, no, we have to do it. We just have to get used to this new way of reaching out. And the second self-doubt happened. Well, Sapna ma'am, you've allowed us to be very honest. So I'm going to say something which may ruffle a few feathers, but I will say it still. When after all the effort of the teachers and of the staff of doing everything to the best possible way and even organizing functions, when there were parents who wrote back and said, why should we pay the fees? That was my second absolute smack gob self-doubt, that what I'm doing, is it right? I mean, what am I doing? Am I wrong in asking for the fees? How will I pay the teachers? How will I pay the staff? So these are the two events that happened. One slightly, detached in the sense of, helping out children, where I felt for them. I appreciated their self-doubt, and I told them, each one, I said, there's nothing new. I'm also feeling self-doubt. It's okay. So that reassurance, I think, went a long way, Sapna, that in accepting that it's not abnormal to doubt yourself. And I've shared with you the two instances where I had self-doubt on myself, that what I am doing, is it good enough or is it not okay?
Yeah, so I think this is something which Navya said is resonating, ma'am. She started criticizing her own self, but she came out resilient and more stronger than before. And if you permit, I can say the same. I think you, along with the rest of us, we came out stronger in spite of all the hurdles that we faced. We are together and we are stronger. So my next thing is for the parents. What were your tense or anxious moments in the past 1 month or 1.5 month? I'll start with Jaspreet.
Yeah, in the last 1.5 months, you said.
Yes.
Okay, so in the last 1.5 months, I would say that the biggest anxious moment at home that we were having was regarding my son's board exams, class 12 exams, which had got left in a limbo in the middle of them, and one did not know in which direction things are going to proceed, whether exams will be held or won't be held, and all that debate and uncertainty that was going around. But luckily, yes, they came in time, and his conditional offer in Canada that was pending because of the transcripts being available went through, and everything happened. So in the last 1.5 months, if you ask me, for me, it was a phase where things were moving more back into acceptance, like some of the speakers have said. Last 2 months probably have become the acceptance stage for me, where one was accepting the situation and learning to move ahead with it.
Yeah, moving ahead and learning to accept. What
Yes.
about you, Archana? What were your anxious and fearful moments for the past 1.5 month?
So, ma'am, I just go back slightly more and I tell you that the most anxious moments I've had during this entire 4 months were, of course, the board exams, whether they'll happen or not happen. And so grateful to God that the class 10 exams happened, ma'am. So I was done with what were really the most fearful and tense moments for me in these 4 months. However, in the last 1.5 months, like Jaspreet said, we've gone used to the lockdown. We have I mean, things are now moving on in a certain pattern. Uh, for me, the children are my utmost priority, especially because they are, I mean, with one who's now high school and the other one who's in college. So the board exams happened, but with my older son, he was in third year. The third year final exams had to happen. He's doing a professional course. We were not sure how will the exams happen because there were a lot of models they have to do. There are a lot of hands-on work that he has to do. But I think everybody has moved on, and the exams happened. The internal exams happened, ma'am. The external exams happened. So those had been very anxious moments. Also, with the corona cases rising, and though there are no lockdowns anymore, we have to be so very careful. So however, we cannot let our guard down anytime we are going out, even grocery shopping or vegetable shopping, ma'am, or we are getting anything inside the house. You cannot be careless about it. Though now everybody has a chance and everything is moving, but we cannot let our guard down. So those are anxious moments that, ma'am, we hear of entire families who've fallen sick. We hear of people who are still dying. So
Yeah.
how to sustain ourselves, how to keep on with that pressure, that within ourselves we have to be careful that.
So those were your anxious moments.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, coming to you, you are the head of 3 huge families. You're the director for DPS International, director for DPS Jaipur, and of course us at DPS Gurgaon. Big families. What were your anxious moments looking after these 3 big families and with your own family staying so far away from you. So what were your anxious moments?
So I divide my life into compartments. So my worry for my family was an ongoing strain where, I just kept telling my son, because he's a little careless, doesn't wear a mask, thinks it's not important, to thinking about this large family, which I thought was my duty. And I think every day was spent in looking at the specific issues of each school. So the most important was keeping everybody's morale up. I thought that was very, very important. So I did my best to either by my recordings, my videos that I used to send, or just sending positive messages to make sure everybody stays afloat. So I think when you're positive, everything works out. The moment you stop trying, the moment there is what we call passivity, then all kinds of negative thoughts will come in. So my first attempt was to ensure that no one falls into that crevice of depression. That was the most important for me. And then, of course, to also ensure that whatever is required for that particular school, whether it is help in the sense of digital help or training help, I should be there to provide for that. So I think somewhere in that it kept me very busy to look after everybody's immediate needs.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. What about you, Ajay? What were your anxious moments? Were you able to create a balance between your work and working from home? Did you have any anxious moments?
And okay, so the onset of the pandemic had its own anxious moments, because the sheer lack of information, we didn't know where this was coming from and or where this was going, right? But I'll restrict my answer to the time frame that you mentioned, which is the last about a month and a half. I think what happened over a period of time was with the lockdown. I think the lockdown gave us a sense of comfort, a sense of security, and maybe a false sense of confidence that we were now protected by the lockdown.
Yeah.
But now with the opening up, I think each new step of opening up, throws up its own insecurities, throws up its own questions. Just for simple examples, we've started going out shopping for essentials again. We have deliveries coming home, right? Social visits have started to a certain extent, right? I have an 18-year-old son bursting with energy. He wants to go out for his basketball game, right? Or a game of cricket. It's happening around us. People are doing that. How do we actually fit into that new normal and yet keep control and stay safe? I think that's the most anxious bit right now for me.
Okay. What about you, Biswadeep?
So, last 1.5 months, I can't add there has been any new anxious moment for me.
Okay.
But what I'll say is that, right from the period that this lockdown or the impact of coronavirus spread started, there were anxious moments which were, how do we deal with this economically? Okay. So the first economic impact is on self.
Yes.
Okay. Then on the family, then on your responsibility towards the organization that you work for, and then you start thinking about what happens to the country, right? So this was the most anxious moment of the economic impact of it. And there have been, in this last 4 months, or 5 months now almost, there have been huge mutilations on the economic front, on individuals and all. Okay. So we have been lucky enough to have not got totally mutilated till now. That doesn't mean it cannot happen in the future, or we will all come out of it. So
Yes.
those anxious moments, I mean, probably the men's anxious moments are slightly different than, all the mothers and the women's anxious moment, because you have so much soft things to take care of. But from domestic point of view, anxious moments were when we had to bring the children back from UK just before the lockdown started, both of them. So that was anxious moment, how to get the flights and get them home. And then before as I speak today, my daughter has already gone back to her college in Scotland. So I'm worrying that hope she remains same. So these are some anxious moments which as a family we share. But otherwise, during the period of lockdown, the house ran pretty smoothly. We all pitched in to do everything. So, there was no...
Reduce the anxiety.
Huh?
to reduce the anxiety?
No, I don't think it was doing anything with the anxiety. I mean, we just were, everybody was doing their own stuff. The kids wouldn't do that stuff. So Nandini my wife would be running after them to get it done. But more than that, from an anxious point of view, I would say the anxious point of view, and still continues, is on the economic side of it
Okay.
and the health side of it. Okay.
Okay.
So I have elderlies also. No matter how much precaution I take, how do I ensure that nothing happens? So from that angle, yeah, sorry. Have I overshot my time?
Ajay wants to say something.
I just wanted to, sorry to, if I interrupted you, BG, I just wanted to add one element to what BG mentioned. So, even on the work front, I think the anxiety comes, one, personally, obviously, from the state of the impact on the economy and the subsequent impact on careers, jobs, and, there is also an anxiety of keeping the business and the work going, right? You have a large team, you have a workforce. You do not want the situation to impact their livelihood, right? So I think managing that uncertainty is also creates a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. I just wanted to add that to what.
So in fact, Ajay, thank you for adding that. I would have come to that only. One of the things that we all, I learned very categorically, I had believed it earlier also, is that during the time when there is a stress, tension, or during the time when difficult times, it becomes very important to be very, very transparent and honest with your stakeholders. Okay. Whether it's your family or whether it's the people that you work with, organization. So you cannot take the ownership of keeping others in dark, saying that, okay, I am the head and I will take care of it. Because, during times of crisis, it doesn't give you the right. Because everybody must know transparently what they're into, what they're going to face. Because a lot of people have lost their jobs also. There have been salary cuts, there have been pay cuts, deferred pays, all these impacts were happening. And another thing that
so everyone has those anxiety moments, anxious moments. So my next thing, in one word, you all have to say, I'll start from the children, Tapasmi. What is that one mechanism that you devised for coping up with your anxiety? One, very briefly.
Drinking tea and having it with my family is very common.
Great. Drinking tea. What about you, Abhimanyu?
Mom, it would definitely be communicating with my friends and family.
Oh, chatting with your friends and family. What about you, Navya?
Ma'am, it will be my to-do list. I get satisfaction striking off something I've done. It ensures me that I'm doing good.
Okay, good. What about you, Parth?
I'm playing drums.
What? Drums? Oh, good. What about you, Jaspreet?
It was definitely playing Scrabble and poker with the whole family.
Wow. Archana?
Ma'am, I think I found my ikigai, got back to teaching, got back to reading, and I tried to ensure that everybody found theirs. For example, my younger son, I told him to teach me the keyboard, and I have never played a musical instrument. And then I told them, I said, please teach me how to solve the Rubik's Cube.
Okay.
I think we all started figuring out things that we all look forward to the next day.
Great. What about you, ma'am?
Singing.
Wow. So can we request you to sing one line?
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a panel discussion. No, I don't sing very well. I just let off steam in that. I have my school group, my school friends, I have my family group, and we sing based on a theme every day. And that, for some reason, that really chills me out. And I sing whenever I feel stressed out.
One line, ma'am.
Is singing, drumming, and playing the keyboard, reading, playing board games. What about you, Ajay? What is your stress?
I think what works the best is just letting it all drop and going for a walk.
Okay.
Yeah, and that really works for me. But in recent times, I think a friend of mine has also introduced me to mindfulness and meditation. I think that's beginning to really help. And it doesn't take long, just 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and it kind of resets you, charges you up, and, takes all the negativity and the stress away and makes you positive all of that. So that's how I'm coping.
Okay, great. So a good walk. What about you, BG?
On a lighter note, irritating the kids was highly stressful. So they would start bouncing on me.
It was dissipating your anxiety and getting your children
Yeah.
anxious. Yes?
Very good.
Great. So, taking it forward from there, I would like to talk about the sleep patterns. I've been hearing a lot from children and students when I'm interacting with them that the sleep patterns have changed. Now, are you happy about it, or you are again anxious because your sleep pattern has changed, and when you in the near future get back to your school, you will again be stressed out because your sleep pattern has changed? So I will start with Navya. She's nodding.
I mean, I would just decided to take this as an example. The sleep schedule isn't the same for sure, but I think of it as traveling to a foreign country. So when we go there, we get used to their time zone, and if we stay there for 4 months, then I'm pretty sure we'll be adapted to that time zone and wake up according to that. But when we come back to home, in a week or so, we are back to normal, and I'd say school is the home. So when we are required to change to our home timings, we'll adjust our body alarms accordingly. I'll be fine doing that.
You will be fine. Fine.
Yes.
Okay. What about you, Abhimanyu?
Well, ma'am, to be very honest, I have not been very good at managing my sleep schedule even prior to the lockdown. So, for the lockdown, honestly, it was just balancing the amount of sleep that I get. So, not exactly the schedule. Like, for example, taking an example, if I have an assignment that I have to submit the next day, even if I cannot sleep as early as I should, I then ensure that I have at least the required hours of sleep that I need. So, just balancing the amount has been like more important than according to the timing wise.
Okay. So you're okay.
Yeah.
You're okay. This way or that way, your sleep will be like that.
Yeah.
What about you, Parth? What about your sleep patterns?
Ma'am, I definitely do enjoy just waking up 5 minutes before class and hopping onto the class. But I think, as Navya said, school is the normal, and I also believe that sleep pattern is not that big of a deal. At least for me, I can adapt to it very easily, and I think I do think this one is better because it gives you more flexibility. But still, it's okay.
Okay. So what about you, Tapasmi?
This is an interesting question because I think my sleep schedule was worse before the lockdown because I'd come back from school, take a nap, and then stay up till 4 a.m. probably watching movies or procrastinating. But now that I'm able to do everything throughout the course of the day to my own pace, I've actually sorted it out. And that's a habit that I'm planning on carrying on even after school reopens.
Okay. What about you, ma'am?
Oh, I'm a living example of that. I'm in a different time zone now, but I'm following India time. So I wake up at 4. I'm sitting in some class or the other at 4:30. It could be senior school, it could be junior school, it could be primary school, it could be a class in Jaipur, it could be a meeting. So my body is here, but my brain and mind are working on India time. With the result that by 8:30 or 9, I'm pretty much done. But somehow that my day ends only by 10:30. By the time I finish all my kitchen work, etc. So it's not too bad, but I just want school to open. I'll wake up at 3 a.m. if necessary. I just want this to go away and things to get back.
All of us. What about these two super moms that we have on the panel? Jaspreet.
Well, yeah, initially I thought it's going to be a big disruptor if everybody is waking up late because both the boys, one out of university and one out of class 12, initially were a little disoriented, and I didn't want to push them, because sleeping late, I think, was another stress buster for them. So I let them do it. And then husband not going to work, I think we all fell into that routine. And I think coming back will not be such a problem because waking up late means sleeping late at night. I think once that entire thing changes, I'll be happy that everybody gets back to their routine. So it's not an anxiety for me.
Okay. What about you, Archana?
Ma'am, I don't remember ever getting up at 8 o'clock. Ever. So this is like a holiday actually. I get a lot of me time, which I not because I sleep late and I get up and I'm okay getting up at 8. So as Ajay was saying, I also meditate at night. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of research on topics which have interested me for a long time. So I'm very okay with it. And we know as soon as school is back, college is back, we'll be back to the old normals. But right now, this works for me.
Great. I think the viewers are keenly watching and listening to all of you. We already have a couple of questions, and by name. There is one question for you, Mr. Vasan. It says, during the lockdown, is it that you are coping with your work and family, or is it your family coping with your time schedules?
Well, I would say both.
Okay.
And it's not only my time schedule and me working from home. My wife is a teacher and she's also working from home. So it's actually, yes, there is a lot of coping involved there. Work-life balance. I mean, one would think working from home would help create work-life balance. I think it's actually exactly the opposite, right? Somehow, we've gone into a 24/7 mode. My first calls in the morning started about 7:30 in the morning. And just last night, I got a work call at about 10:45. And I got one of those looks from my wife, which convinced me I did not want to answer that call. So there's a lot of coping involved, and there's a lot of adaptation involved. I would say, we've learned to actually adapt, actually say no, right? Actually be a little more selfish with our time, possibly. I think those are the coping mechanisms that are coming in. Actually setting a balanced daily schedule, right? Creating time for work, but also creating time for ourselves and our family. I think that is the most important and that's a learning that I'm actually going to take away from this phase.
Okay, thank you.
Sapna ma'am,
Yes,
do I have
ma'am.
your permission to leave? I have to attend the website.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank
Sorry
you.
for, thank you. Thank you, children. Thank you, dear parents.
So much, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Jaspreet, you also have a question, specially asked to Miss Chopra. Parents are going through the same pandemic as their children, and they are just as human as their children. What kind of support do you expect from your children to help you deal with these stressful times?
Good question, I would say, because I'm no longer in the stage of expecting. Yes, initially I was expecting, but I must say that my children have been very, very supportive. Though, yes, I've given them their allowance of waking up late and the whole house routine falling in late. But they have been very supportive, helping me in the household chores. There are some things, I have a back issue, I cannot do them. So, they're always around there for me. And I think I've got all the support that I could have asked for.
Great, great. I think you are blessed to have children like that.
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. I've always been counting my blessings, and I think these months of the pandemic have made me even more grateful for everything that I have, every little thing.
Great. What do you have to say to that, children? Maybe Tapasmi? Do you ever feel that your family, your parents are expecting too much from you? Because now that 24/7 you are with them, they are with you. Did you ever feel that that's the kind of pressure that you have to cope with, the pressure that the family is putting, the expectations of the family? Did you ever feel
I
that?
think that students are very used to being exposed to kids our age with whom we can relate to and share a common struggle with. Whereas now we're always surrounded by our family. So for me, when it comes to balancing my academic and extracurricular workload, there's always a tone of concern in my parents' voice that the person, are you able to handle everything? Are you sure that one is not compromising the other? And the reason I tend to perceive that as nagging, even though I know it's coming from a place of love, is because the honest answer to that is sometimes that I don't know. To a large extent, I am winging it. I do encounter obstacles and insecurities, but that's the reason it's so important. And I would urge all parents and children present in the webinar right now to do as well, is to have an open and non-judgmental conversation with your family, because it's only when you put yourself in each other's shoes that you can understand what the other is going through. And that's how I've dealt with when I've dealt with the situations in which I feel like that they're holding me to a higher regard, to a higher expectation than I feel I can succumb to at that point.
Okay, great. That's like a young adult talking. Parth, tell me, did you ever feel that kind of anxiety or stress? Because when you were going to school, 6 hours you were away from your from the eyes of your parents. But now you are studying, you're having your online classes within the four walls of the house. did you ever feel that, oh no, I want to go back to school just because my parents are there 24/7, they are watching me? Did you ever have that kind of feeling?
Not really,
Honest,
ma'am. I think
honest.
yes, ma'am. Not really, because I think my parents, more than pressurizing me to do something or study or something, they actually support me. So whatever opinions that I have, they support them. And I think going to school, as you said, going to school is something that I want, but the reason that you said is not correct for me.
Okay.
Going to school would be the reason for that would be just meeting my friends and meeting my teachers and having face-to-face classes. But I think my parents, along with my friends, have really supported me during this time.
Wonderful. I hope your parents are listening to that. That's kind of saying thank you to them for being
Yes,
there
ma'am.
for you. What about you, Navya? Did you ever feel the pressure of the family, that they have a lot of expectations from you, and more so because now you're 24/7 inside the house?
Well, I mean, if it comes to family, firstly, I think spending so much time with them, which we did not in the past 2 years in high school, is that there have been little increased fights, I'd say, but at the same time, increased support. Uh, as for expectations, there are not any additional expectations. What I personally feel is that the already existing expectations seemed more difficult to me now. So, for example, my parents would want me to do just as good as I did in the last 2 years with my academics, but I wasn't sure if I'm actually gaining from the online classes initially. And other thing is that all parents expect, especially our generation, to take time off screen. But when physical activities got transformed to digital, I spend most of my time with devices. So I think those expectations were in doubt. But now I've been coping well because as for the part where I wasn't sure of my performance, school is conducting assessments. We're having quizzes in classes. It's such interactive sessions like today. So that all.
Great. So now the next question is to the two gentlemen. At any point of time, is it that the bonding time during this pandemic was irritating you? Did you ever feel that I want to get back to the office? Enough is enough now. Ajay?
I won't say so, ma'am.
Okay.
I think that's been one of the advantages of this lockdown is that we've got more family time, more. Yes, there are times when the proximity does get a little overwhelming, but we found our ways around that. And so, all in all, I think it's been a very positive experience, and I think that'll be one of the positives of this lockdown:
Great,
family time and bonding time.
great. What about you, BG?
I think during the lockdown period also things were same as earlier only. The kids tended to be on their own most of the time, and we were also on our own, and but having more time to be at home. But I'm not a guy who likes to stay put in one place. So I would go out of the house almost every day to buy something or the other, the vegetables or the provisions, or take my car out, do a small round and come back. But
Okay.
one other thing, I think, if if you're 24 hours, 24/7, if you're together, there's always a chance of a lot of irritation, which normally otherwise would have gone under the surface coming out. I mean, you can't deny that.
Okay. So now this one is going to be kind of a rapid fire. Each one, I want you all to share with the viewers one change that you found in yourself, that one little thing that changed during these past 4 months. I will start with the ladies, maybe Archana. One thing, short and brief.
One thing that changed for me.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am? Okay, I think the one thing that changed for me was that I was able to make a timetable and
Okay.
and have
You were able to make a timetable, a schedule for yourself, right?
and for ma'am, it happened because everybody was home. Otherwise, everybody had different timings.
Yeah.
This was easier to follow now with everyone at home.
So blessing in disguise.
Yes, ma'am.
Something good happened to you. Okay, what about you, Jaspreet?
For me, ma'am, it was definitely acceptance, which was lesser in the earlier months, and as we have come nearer to date, I think the level of acceptance and tolerance inside me definitely went up.
Yeah, great. What about you, Abhimanyu? Then Parth, and then Navya, and then Tapasni.
I think personally it would be trusting myself more, have more confidence in myself, because now that I am myself, I am the judge of my performance.
Self-trust,
Yes, ma'am.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
What about you, Parth?
Realizing unpredictability and also keeping track of everything that I do.
Keeping track. Wonderful. What about you, Navya?
It would be I think I learned self-compassion and motivation in a lot of ways. And just another thing is that I went back to a lot of creative activities, which I found happiness in.
Okay, great. What about you, Tapasmi?
I've actually become a better conversationalist because now that my conversations are limited, I make the most out of them.
Great. What about you, Ajay?
Well, ma'am, I think Jaspreet stole my special word, acceptance.
Acceptance.
I think, yes, and that is especially true for me. Been somewhat of a control freak all my life. So learning now to accept that there is a lot beyond human control, and I think that's one of the important realizations.
So wonderful.
Please.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. What about you, BG?
I think the biggest realization probably is that that nothing is in your control.
Nothing is
in your control actually. So
yes.
Earlier we used to fret about getting all of that into place, trying to navigate through that. Now it's more acceptance that the path will probably create itself.
Acceptance, gratitude, knowing your own self, family bonding. And for me, I think I started counting my blessings. Every day, every moment, 24/7, I started counting my blessings. And at times, I felt that while we are at home, if the walls of the house had arms, they would all give us a tight hug for being what we are, for being resilient, for being able to cope up with whatever has been thrown in front of us, the uncertainty, the fear. With that note, I will say a heartfelt thank you for this conversation. I have learned a lot today. I don't know about you and the viewers, but I have learned a lot today, kind of resonating with whatever I've been thinking. It's been a great, great conversation. Thank you all. Stay safe and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for having us here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.